Hello, this is your after interviewer. I don't know. Hi, O'Neill Henry here. Just wanted to say that this is going to be how we got here. If you can't tell by the title of it, it's kind of a recap of season 1 in its totality. We covered literally every arc, so I'm going to go ahead and put this at the top here. Big spoilers, especially towards the end, but throughout the entire thing, huge spoilers for the entire show. If you haven't listened yet, go back and hurry up and finish and catch up so you can enjoy this episode. We mainly just talk about the game and talk about ourselves, our motivations, that kind of, fun stuff. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, that's what we'll be cooking at here. We do plugs at the end, but I'm going to go ahead and drop them off at the top here. Go ahead and just follow us on Instagram and Twitter at YMBW Podcast. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts, and I'll use your name in the show if you do that. Or tweet about the show using the hashtag YMBW. That's the hashtag symbol YMBW. We also have a Patreon if you want to help us out. Give us some cash money. $5 a month gets you all the bonus content. We got some hyperlanes on there. We got some extra stuff coming soon. $5 a month, and we have other tiers, of course. You can read all about it on our Patreon, patreon.com/YMBW podcast. That's it for the plugs. Again, super big spoilers. So you have been warned and you have been thorned. Now enjoy how we got here.
Hooker Santa.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hooker
boys
Santa,
and
by the
girls
way,
and
this
other
is my favorite
they.
Motley Crue album.
Hi, Olivia.
I don't know what's happening.
This is going to be a loosey-goosey one.
This is going to be loosey-goosey. Welcome, everybody, to the How We Got Here. How did we get here? Olivia, tell us how we got here right now.
We rolled some dice, and then my character died. Actually, 2 of them died, and then
Three
the
of
other
them.
one
4 of
maybe
them
got turned off. 3 of them, 4 of them, 4 of them were out of commission briefly each.
We got Olivia some new dice. No, we didn't. Olivia got herself some new dice.
No, we got Jesse some new dice.
We got Jesse some new dice. Who
did get?
How did
Jesse
Julie
new
survive?
dice.
Let's be real.
Yeah. Hey.
This proves
She
dice
had
rolls
John.
don't mean anything. It's up
The
to how
Mondo health.
vindictive the DM is, and clearly O'Neill
Exactly.
doesn't like you.
No, it's because I have health.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of How We Got Here, now starring Tyler. I wasn't in the last one.
Now Tyler gets one.
Oh, right, because you were,
Tyler,
you were
every-
in London.
everybody
Because you
gets
haven't been here. Yeah, everybody gets one. Tyler, because you haven't been here, I'll go ahead and let you just ask the first question just about the entire show before I actually get into the arc by arc breakdown so we can start asking
O'Neill
questions by
Michael
arc.
is spelled wrong.
Listen,
I do that every time. Okay.
Mikhail.
My dad and my brother's name is Michael, so unfortunately, all of them. Wait, Michael is spelled wrong every
Oh,
single
God.
time.
Command.
Wait, are you sure this isn't like I'm doing the old
So,
spelling?
should we give in case someone hasn't listened to one of these before or skipped the one in the middle of SWAT, I think we should just give a quick rundown
We
of
talk about
Yeah,
what
we're
happened.
just
gonna
gonna
be.
we're gonna jerk ourselves off for about an hour and a
This
half.
is gonna be we're gonna have a big circle jerk. And
Everybody's got a hand on a buzzer, and when you hit the buzzer, that means you win 10,000 points.
And look, quite frankly,
And you
I think
come.
this is just another way for O'Neill to stall season 2. He doesn't know where he's going. This is lost.
That's
How did we get
it
here?
is
Where
so
are
that
we
I get
going?
a little bit of a buffer
Well,
between the two
there-
because I do have a lot of work to do in
There's some
between.
givens. Like, continue to emotionally manipulate Wes.
Yeah.
Throw every
Emotionally hurt Julie.
And
traumatic, throw every
Julie.
traumatic
And kill my
experience
Kill
Cash.
more of these characters. But yeah, essentially we're just gonna talk about the show for
in the
real.
next season, you find out Julie actually has an uncle, but he also has stage 4 lymphatic cancer. So
Oh God.
Jesus Christ.
Listen,
Gonna-
that was set up.
Gonna kill
early.
another one of Wes's father figures. Spoiler, spoiler alert.
Oh yeah, let's put that up at the very top. This is gonna have like
fat spoilers
massive,
for the entire
huge
season
spoilers for the entire thing. I'll
We're
probably say
literally
that
talking
before
about the
the
ending.
actual
Hey, if you
episode.
Yeah,
haven't
we're gonna-
finished
we're just-
episode 1, no, not episode 1. If you haven't finished season 1, stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
Stop it. Pause
Stop,
it right
turn
here.
around.
Well,
Do the
Let's
hokey
be
pokey.
honest. If you listen to episode 1 and then listen to this, you're a buck wild boy. And let's hang out because
I
you're
promise it
you're
gets better.
interested.
If you've only listened to episode 1, I promise it gets
Yeah.
better.
Now my favorite are the people who only listen to how we got here. So they're their favorite episodes.
Oh God, yes. I mean, it kind of is gonna be like the HBO kind of like recap, like 10 seconds of each episode. Anyway, all right.
This
So
is
the
gonna
way
be
we're
a
gonna
li-
do this,
just it's gonna be a little more loosey goosey. I think everyone
Yeah,
should be
yeah.
aware. This is gonna be a little less organized than usual.
yeah. So the way we're gonna do this, I'm gonna like play the music from the arc that I'm gonna talk about, and then we'll just hop into it. So starting off episode 0, we made our characters. We had Wes, Cash, and Julie. You guys laid some stuff out for me. I laid some stuff out for you about the world, and then we hopped right in. Wes in Reno, Nevada was approached by Michael and offered to join SWAT. Due to the heightened amount of Outlanders, Reaper attacks, and wild Phaetonians, they were opening SWAT up to mundanes to help quell these problems. Wes initially turned him down, but after an encounter with the Bones family, he took him up on the offer. Julie, a honorably discharged lieutenant in America's Armed Forces, was working in a grocery store when darkness itself seemed to attack the customer inside. She, being the hero she is, managed to puncture a hole in the darkness and evacuate the store before SWAT showed up to finish the job. Impressed, they offered her to join. Cash, after closing his Chicago gym, was attacked by some strange dark Phaetonian and had to protect himself, and one of his gym members, as Jack Fisher, chair of necromancy, arrived to the scene. Initially, Jack had the upper hand, but began to lose before Cash threw an exploding shoe and turned the tide. They all woke up and went through a challenge that determined their status in SWAT, and were inaugurated as the first integrated investigations team. They then went through orientation, where you decided to peel off and join Michael.
We didn't decide. Michael said, hey guys, come with me.
O'Neill hasn't figured out what the rest of the society looks like yet.
Learning more about the world and less about the organization. You met Blurog, Todd the Dragonborn, Scarlet, and the council, except for the chair of technomancy, who was apparently busy, and the illusion chair. You briefly went to the Spirit Realm, where you found out that your avatars were Gimel the Great, Garnog the Great, and Clarissa the Powerful. You were then finally given your chosen items in your first challenge, fighting these clockwork creatures, where Wes's magic went out of control for the first time in a long time. That was Beasts and Beginnings.
That's how you spell Blurog?
Yes.
I hate it. It's very
Oh
That's
French.
how
my
the.
God, I thought
That's
it
a
was
character. That's a not a character. That's a listener who rated us on.
BLURAGUE. Hello, my name is Blurog.
Blurog?
That's
You guys don't know
Frencher than
Orcish spelling.
Pierre.
that's a direct translate from Orcish, all right? I need you all
Okay,
to step
first
off.
question. Let's talk
Uh-huh.
about Beasts of Beginnings. You really couldn't come up with better. Couldn't come up with better titles than Two the Greats.
Now, Tyler, look at the characters. Just look at them real quick. Now, what
Yeah.
do those two have in common that the other one doesn't have in common?
It starts with a G.
Nope. Try again.
We are dead.
There you go.
They're dead. Yes,
Does
that's
that
right.
mean that we're great?
Now,
Clarissa
yes,
still,
also
I feel
died
like-
eventually, I'm assuming. Is she not
Yeah,
great?
but she
No.
never. Well,
Is
you'll
she
have to
how
see.
lucky
Yeah,
is she
but,
with
like,
my
you
die?
guys
Probably
will have
still
to
alive,
see.
but I'm not allowed to voice her anymore.
Like, why couldn't he be like Gimel the Pursuer or something that like had to do with his backstory? You were just like, they're both the great. Figure it
Gimel
out.
the
We
Gallant.
never.
Gimel the
we
Gallant.
never-
Exactly. That
We
would've been
never
sick.
went into backstories at all. The greats have to do with the
We
fact
didn't
that you
have
were
a
dead. I was
backstory.
trying
We'll get
to.
into that. We'll get into that stuff when we get to when we actually play those characters.
So wait, Olivia, how
Um,
did you have an exploding shoe?
Yeah, that never made.
my-
What is
so,
the exploding shoe?
It was the first time I harnessed my monk powers, and I used it to throw a shoe at this monster because it was the only projectile that I had, and I thought I would try to goad it away from Abigail and Jack, not knowing who he was, as he announced who he was and what society he was working for in public, even though it's a secret society, and tried to basically read the Miranda rights to this creature, and I threw a magical shoe at it. It didn't explode. It was just filled with light.
It exploded a little bit.
Did it explode?
Yeah,
Damn, I like.
I put an explosion sound effect in there. So
Oh, all right. Well, I guess it did.
I think talking about Beasts and Beginnings is, I think, something interesting to talk about would be our conceptions for the characters we were playing versus how they turned out.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
because if you go back and listen to our session 0, I'd say almost none of our characters. I mean, their backstories and the general ideas for them remain the same, but the idea of like, I think everyone's the personality and like the inner
the way
way
that
we
we played
interacted with
them
everybody, we played them,
changed.
kind of changed. And then, as a side note for O'Neill, was there like anything at Beast of Beginnings where we played a character a certain way where you were like, oh, I wasn't okay, interesting, like if you have a moment where you're like, oh, this is gonna be a weird character.
All of it. This was my first time actually like prepping the beginnings of a long-term campaign, and the first session I had almost immediately went off the rails with Wes, with Julie, with Cash, all of it. Like, none of it was what I expected it to be. Wes, I did not expect you to be as cold with Michael, although it turns out it like ended up working very well. Julie, you like completely threw off what I was gonna have you do as far as like fighting the darkness and all that. I expected Cash to kind of engage the creature more directly, but did not. And it was all just very interesting.
Oh God.
Yeah. We'll have a specific time to talk about Cash's arc here in just a moment. My question for you guys is, what did you guys?
Julie really changed.
Julie has changed quite a bit.
Yeah, that's fair.
I
think
she's become
we can make that
I think
argument
Julie
as we go
changed from session 0. I think session 0 to like actual play, I don't think Julie changed. But I think we were all shocked at how hard you stayed in character as a real cold kind of hard ass. I think that's what surprised us the most, is I don't think any of us were expecting like that kind of character.
My question for you guys is, how did you guys, versus having finished season 1, how did you guys imagine that the season was going to go? Obviously coming down from Noah and from the Pattern Saga, Olivia had just joined us. So what was each of you guys' kind of expectations going into this?
I was very scared. I had no clue what kind of. I'd only ever played like high fantasy D&D. I had played games, I had run games, but I had no idea what to expect. Especially having only played Mutants and Masterminds with you guys, and then suddenly just being like, okay, you're a main character on a podcast now, act. And I was like, oh, okay. So I put in not a lot for backstory, but I had like some significant parts that I thought would like build Cash's character. And as soon as we were like, oh, we're fighting monsters, and I was like, oh, the plan for him to be a pacifist went right out the window. Because I think that the way that you have this campaign set up would not have been conducive to him not fighting.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
So that changed very quickly. One thing that, like, we have talked about it, but I don't think Cash has ever talked about. He's like, I think in Botanist in Boston, which we'll get to, there's one thing where he's like, is it a person? Fine, then I'll fight it.
Yeah, exactly. Is it a person or is it like a monster? And those are the kind of delineations I think Cash, especially in Botanist in Boston, was trying to make.
That's what I started off with.
Julie makes that same delineation.
Yeah, I would say Julie makes that delineation even more like tersely than I would say Wes or Nelson. We'll get there. I have a specific thing for that too.
Yeah. I know we've mentioned it on the podcast before, and it's a fairly popular series, but you and I are both huge fans of the Dresden Files. And Wes is definitely inspired a little bit from Harry Dresden. You could tell I had just finished reading like 13 straight Dresden Files books when I made this character. And I think I don't know what I was expecting. I think I was expecting I expected it to be a lot less world hopping, like big picture stuff. I think I was expecting it to be a little bit smaller scale to start out, sort of how campaign 1 started out, where I expected more of like at least to start like more of a low key Dresden Files-y single enemy. Oh, we got to track something down, and it starts to lead into something bigger. And that's sort of what Beast in Beginnings is. Not that there's much of an investigation in that one.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, you should go read the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. It's just about a wizard detective in Chicago set in the modern day. You can definitely tell there's some major influences on O'Neill. But yeah, I think I was expecting something closer to that. And when it wasn't, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to like adjust the character a little bit. Because I think we all came in expecting like a little bit more, not more role play and less action. That's not it. But like more of a like talking to people and boots on the ground. We're going to go figure stuff out than, you know. It's a little more sleuthing, and we didn't really get to a lot of sleuthing until
Whenever
gosh,
we
I don't
tried
know if
sleuthing-
ever we really did
Magic
like
in
some
the
real
Midwest,
sleuthing.
I would say you guys started that trend, but I would say Drinks and Dances when you guys had the most opportunity to get to this listing, and we'll talk about that.
I'm a karate teacher. Very funny.
Ah, yes. Botanist in Boston. You all were tasked with an observation mission to the plant, a botanical research facility underneath the Boston Commons. Julie was warned by Amber that there were some murmurings of Reaper attacks in the area, but since there was no proof to stay on guard, Cash and Wes snuck out to a Red Sox game and Arsenio was attacked by an unknown assailant. You witnessed the wonders of the plant, including new and improved beans of healing and magical plant creations apparently created on Gaia, a great feat. You all were shown around by Dr. Aubrey and her assistant Clara, and were ushered into the battle chamber where you fought the newly developed plant soldiers. Cash got the absolute shit kicked out of him and the battle was called off. You all were shown around different biomes for the rest of the day, and when you went to bed, Cash noticed that Arsenio went missing again. He stumbled upon Arsenio's dying body and woke the rest of you up as his last words were "not the Reaper." He dies and Claire stumbles upon you all and screams, notifying the security officer Bob and Dr. Heasecorn. You all were thrown into a makeshift cell for the night where you were attacked again by a plant humanoid. You then escaped through the various biomes, finding a panda, and were rescued by Clara, who said Dr. Aubrey was in trouble. You all rush out without grabbing your supplies and find a perfectly fine yet startled doctor. You all try to talk her down, fail, and have to fight both Clara, who reveals herself to be being putting human souls inside of bodies of plant creatures, including Arsenio, and the doctor who thinks you did something to Clara. You fight both, and by the sacrifice and hunger of the plant assistants who consume Clara's body in a piranha-like fashion, you prevail, but hear another threat in the main lobby of the plant. You discover an Aubrey 2 Outlander threatening to level the plant and go above ground, begin taking over the world. Cash dies in the fight, but thanks to a scroll you found in one of the biomes, you manage to bring him back and escape the plant. The plant collapses along with the Boston Commons.
All right, I have a couple questions for this one, actually.
Cool.
First of all, you have plant in all caps. Does it stand for something?
It did. I don't remember what it was. I tried to find it in my notes. I think I might have deleted that one.
All right, second question. Why didn't they ever give us another guide? Why'd they just go, they killed one. They probably don't need another one.
Well, I mean, there's always a risk there that we kill the other one, right?
Exactly. I mean, you guys
Why
were
weren't we fired?
We knew too much.
You guys were teamed up with Liam, the other guide, for your next mission with the strike team.
Were we?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. But that was the
The
strike
next
team's
one's the
guide.
Midwest.
Yes, but
right?
he was given
Yeah,
to
but that was
you.
the strike
He was
team's
given.
guide.
He was given as a supplement to be your guide and their guide.
Wow, that dude was a lot of help.
It wasn't his fault. He got abducted.
And then it was TJ in the.
And then TJ for the diplomatic
had-
team. And by that point, you graduated.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't graduate until afterward.
Yeah. Oh, you graduated after that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I definitely wasn't expecting to die. in our
Yeah,
first
that
arc.
was.
I've said it before and I've said it again, but the only reason I was like, I would have like called BS if we hadn't already found that scroll and it
didn't make sense when we found it.
No.
So we were asking questions about it and you gave us a justification.
and then it was
So-
like, okay, you just need to find the
Diamonds.
the diamonds. And I was like, I totally would I would have said like that would have been OP or like,
Metagaming.
God throwing us a hand.
Yeah.
If not for the fact we had found it previously.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you like had
And I
explained.
love that.
And I had-
I love that moment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had planned. These were things I had planned. These weren't just things I was throwing at you guys.
You planned to kill Olivia?
No,
You planned
but
to
I
kill
had
Cash?
planned for you guys
Sir?
to find the
What
revivify
if I
scroll
had
and
died
also.
and you guys would have had to roll that scroll?
I like.
That would've been
I
crazy.
think I remember when that whole thing happened, and I think I remember looking over to Tyler and being like, "Did we do it? Like, did we resurrect Cash?"
Yeah,
The
because
first
we were
roll,
recording
though,
in the
remember-
same room
And I
except
was
for
the
Olivia.
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was one where I was with you guys. The random one where I was with you guys and you guys weren't.
I would like to do the beat by beat actually because it was very, very good. There was like the roll from Olivia and then just dead silence for like 10 seconds. I ended up cutting. It was like 20 seconds. I ended up cutting it down for the show, but there was like dead silence. You were like, Olivia, are you there? because we thought Olivia had cut out, and she was like, Cash is dead. And I freaked out because I was like, this isn't supposed to happen this early. I still have backstory and stuff to reveal.
Because I rolled a crit fail.
Yeah, you rolled a crit fail. And then when it got to the point where Wes had to use the Revivify Scroll, I was like, I have the Revivify Scroll, I need diamonds. When it actually came to him to use it, Wes on the first roll actually rolled under. And then the second one, he uses...
Did I use a wild magic reroll?
You used a wild
it?
magic reroll because you were out of spell slots. And you managed to bring back Cash. So it was a lot of like combination work
But
there.
I remember like even in the demo when we were fighting the plants and they were beating us up, I remember Julie was like, okay, your trial's done. Let us out now. Like we were, they were not OSHA
So
safe.
what happened in that, and I don't think it came across necessarily to you all, but I think in the episode it might, kind of retrospectively, is Clara was there controlling the plant monster to continue attacking attacking even
I remember
though
you saying something about a light flying out of her body and going somewhere.
that was Clara taking over the using like the magic that she's been using to control these things to continue the thing even though it was supposed to be called off.
I'm trying to remember what actually killed him.
It was what knocked you unconscious was you were climbing the Aubrey 2 plant.
Did I fall?
Or you died of, I think you just died of like getting slapped by it one too many times.
Natural cause.
Got
Yeah.
smacked. If you're poisoned by a plant, is that a natural cause?
I don't have much to say about this arc other than what we've covered, except for
Big Panda.
I think this is the arc where our characters started to round out into actual characters and not us sort of grasping at what we wanted them to be.
Yeah.
And it was definitely the point where it was the moment where like I became personally invested.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
I think the moment I not to go back to Beasts and Beginnings, but the moment that it got real for me was not necessarily Cash dying, though that was a big wake up call, is when you were like, Michael, your adopted dad, you know, the one that you put in your backstory, he has a new kid.
Yeah,
he didn't tell you about.
We didn't talk about
that
in
fucked
the
me
Beast
up.
Beginning
Yeah.
once, but
We
yes,
didn't mention that earlier,
Jordan,
but
yes.
that fucked me up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, I'm just vaguely remembering something. When we were like fighting Michael, we had to like get past him in the hallway. Did Wes cast Mage Hand and stick a mage finger up Michael's
Oh my
butt?
god!
Okay, I was gonna mention that before Jesse messed up. Is both Olivia and I picked characters. Wes didn't have any damaging spells in the first. I had no, except I had frostbite as a cantrip.
Yeah.
I didn't pick a single damaging spell except for a cantrip. Because Wes, going into it, my whole thing was Wes doesn't want to cast any spells. He's just using it to like hustle people.
Yeah.
And you were like, all right, time for a fight early on. And I was like, oh, I was expecting some Dresden stuff where I could like trick my way out of it. So I was like, what can I use any of this for? The powder spell I had doesn't work on Michael because he was too beefy. And like, I was like,
to be
I don't
fair,
think he would be expecting this in a fight.
every fight I have is also a puzzle. That's the case in every fight I've ever given you, is that there's also a puzzle element to it, which you can use to kind of, so the with Beasts and Beginnings, and also talk about for Aubrey, with Beasts and Beginnings, the puzzle was, and Julie actually encountered it but didn't end up doing it, so the second part of the puzzle was you just needed to stop Michael enough so that one of you could slip past him. But another part of that was in one of the rooms that Julie ran off into, there was a mechanism where one of the walls could fall down on top of Michael, and then all of you could have had a chance to rush by him.
Gosh.
Which was one of them.
But instead, it was just Wes who slipped by with a finger up the butt.
Yeah.
The old Naruto.
Well, also Cash and Julie also choking him out at the same time.
Just climb up on top
Yeah.
of him.
What was the puzzle in? Real quick before I move on to Magic in the Midwest, what was the puzzle in the plant?
In the Aubrey 2 battle, it was you could have gone to release the panda. You could have gone to release you actually did do one aspect. There was a 3-step to it, and you could, if you would have done all 3, you would have actually successfully stopped the Aubrey 2 from collapsing the plant, but you only managed to do 2 of them. There was
beings,
little
guys.
Yeah, the little guys.
Yeah.
The one of them you did the growing over themselves, the daffodils or the vines that were kind of growing over themselves, that you ended up shining the light onto the Aubrey plant, and then kind of it was wrapped it up and restrained it.
Gotcha.
and then the panda, and then you had a choice of like the cherry bombs, which the doctor ended up using, or any of the things that I showed you in the biome room you could have used. I was just checking for three.
You guys want to hear something whack? It's been well over a year since we recorded.
I know, it's so
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Botanist in Boston.
I was actually listening back to some of the episodes for the recap, and it was like right before COVID. It was the end of Magic in the Midwest.
Yep.
Right.
What a simpler time.
Stressful.
What a great segue, though.
Yes.
No, I wasn't done yet. I think it's also important to note that
notes.
that it was in this arc that Julie imprinted on Amber.
Yes. We'll get to that here right now. Okay, so real quick, the R&R in between, you all tell your story to the council, and then Jeffrey Bezos appears, the CEO of Amazonian, and you are let off with a warning and a pay penalty, and West finds out that he has missing memories. Julie thanks Amber, and Cash calls his sister.
So is that doctor just bad at his job, or were you just trying to find a way to tell me that I had memories missing?
That doctor might be my favorite character.
Poor
Dr. Gad. He is a strange one, and we'll leave it at that. He was...
Please...
I'm going to make him my sidekick.
I swear to God, he needs to appear in the next season. He needs to just be somewhere.
We'll have to see. Next season's going to be a little bit different. Okay.
Magic in the Midwest. The Reaper had apparently been attacking communications and transports of SWAT, and the entirety of the Midwest portals and communications were knocked out. You all were sent to Kansas City as an investigative force, along with the strike team, Hans, Greta, Guntar, and led by a strange reverse man named Liam. You all stopped in a gas station, Cash met death apparently, and you all had your tires slashed. Cash evolved into Slim Jim Boy. You all settled into your hotels for the night. In the morning, you are all in different places. Wes woke up in a forested area with Greta, and the two were attacked by giant spiders, in which Greta helped Wes not die while constantly being attacked, and then they were captured by a few lion folk who took them to their kingdom where they had to face the trial of courage. They passed and were told that they needed to go to the Flying Monkey Kingdom. Along the way, they were attacked by an outlander, and as Wes peered into its mind, it peered back, and Wes realized that this thing was chaos, and further ruined his reputation with his comrades. Wes and Greta were captured by the monkeys and put into jails, which they were able to escape, but not before Wes pisses off Greta and the lion folk even more. They managed to steal the magic cap that controls the flying monkeys and bypass Glenda Goodwitch's bubble.
Let's talk about real quick Slim Jim Boy before we... I know we could talk about that when we get to, but let's talk about the before the split apart stuff.
Yeah.
I'll bring up the point that Olivia meets death. She comes and tells Julie. Julie calls it in, and they are like, oh, whatever, get over it.
Yeah, this is the first instance of SWAT being a bunch of a-holes. Incompetent morons.
Well, to be fair, and I quote, he touched my meat stick. I believe that does
but
warrant
that's not
like
what
a
Julie
prank
said.
call. Yeah. I get
called
that, but
first,
it's
I think.
You called
I
first.
called
You reported
second.
the like a Reaper sighting, right? No. Actually, Olivia called first. That's where the Slim Jim Boy came part. And then you called
said
after.
to me they didn't take me seriously.
Yes. Which Olivia's, I guess, is not here to defend herself, but I do think
do we want to pause for a minute until Olivia gets back?
I'll just say really quickly, I do think it's very funny that a lot of Olivia's bits have turned into actionable items for good and also for bad. So Cash will forever be known as Slim Jim Boy.
Rest in peace, Slim Jim Boy.
Julie wakes up on the yellow brick road with Guntar, and the two stumble upon Bach, who lets them know where they are and where to go. They continue and are seemingly attacked by an outlander who calls himself the Game Master. Julie then gets flashbacks of fighting this creature in Iraq, and the two fight it off as Emerald City guards come. They take the two of them inside to meet the Scarecrow King, who tells them that they need to get everyone together for the Dorothy reunion. They make their way to Winky County, but almost get devoured by poppies due to the driver being mind-controlled. They escape and make it to Winky City and find the Tin Man. The Tin Man is very angry that a human is here, but joins the adventure. They pick up King Lionheart and all fly on a flying train to Glinda's castle, but are unable to get in. Julie then sees West flying into the bubble, and West on the inside convinces Glenda Goodwitch the first and third to drop the bubble and let the Tin Man, King Lionheart, and the Scarecrow King in. But also, unbeknownst to them, the Game Master, who wants to bring down the bubble surrounding Oz. He then shows Liam, now converted to an Outlander, and they are about to fight when Cash and Hans appear.
I have two things about this. When I was listening to this for the first time, and you sort of have it soundscaped for Iraq, where there were like bombs going off. I was in the grocery store, and one of the explosions happened, and I literally almost hit the deck. I like ducked in the store, and the person next to me was like, "Whoa!" And I was like, "It's fine. I'm sorry."
I'm listening to a podcast.
I'm listening to a sound design podcast, and I thought there was an explosion behind me in Star Market. Sorry.
My sound design podcast.
My sound design podcast. The other thing is the Scarecrow King, Jack, the Scarecrow King, the best voice to date so far as an NPC.
It's still my favorite voice. That's actually on my reel.
Quick,
as my
round
voice acting
robin.
reel.
Favorite NPC voices, least favorite NPC voices. For everybody. Go. This is a roast and praise.
Are we doing our least favorite first?
Let you do both. Each person does both.
Okay.
I'll go last.
Do we want to say our least favorite all at once?
I think mine's going to be different from yours.
Really?
I think mine's gonna be different from yours.
Okay, fine. All right. Jack the Scarecrow King is pretty iconic. I think he might be my favorite NPC. My least favorite NPC voice is Scarlet, hands down.
Oh shit! No, mine's also Scarlet. Hell yeah!
It's terrible, and I hate it.
Shout out to both my favorite and my least favorite is the Dwarf King.
Oh my god, it's
Albacrassus.
so
Wait,
gross.
what's his
Really
voice?
good,
I
but
forget.
it's gross.
I'd have to conjure it, but it's
It's something like this. I
Right,
want my
right, right.
ale.
Oh my god.
I was
But
channeling
whenever-
the
It makes me not want to talk to Scarlet. I'm sorry.
I don't want to ask for her help because she's gonna talk.
Her
It's
voice has
like,
gotten better.
It causes me physical pain to listen to.
Listen,
I
there's all
love
these
you, Anil,
credits.
but goddamn.
How about you, Jesse?
I think my favorite is the Scarecrow King because I also did get a lot of time to talk to him.
Yeah.
So
Those are my favorite interactions.
and
I think of all the podcasts.
I think there was definitely like a 3 or 4 minute conversation I had with him once that O'Neill was
It
like,
was
"Can
so-
we stop this now?"
No, I mean it was very good. I would have loved to keep it going, but we did need to continue with the plot.
Yeah, and least favorite on principle is Lacuna because it's not her
Okay.
voice.
She bitter.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, listen, she's a lot older. She's had a lot of time to.
She would talk a bit like this if I voiced her.
Well, we didn't have time
Like,
for it. This production.
I said
Jesse?
multiple times you could have asked me.
The amount of
Before she
times-
came on, I said you could have asked
The
me.
amount of times we've had to do re-records for this podcast, I
Oh,
don't think I
kill
could have
me.
afforded.
Only in the
kill
last
me,
6
kill me,
months
kill
too.
me,
Fair.
Kill me, kill me.
That's
Anyway,
the crazy part.
yeah,
I've spent
my
24 hours of
we
my
used to be
life.
pretty good at it.
yeah,
I think it's the fact we've went fully remote. We've had some
Yeah.
technical difficulties.
for sure.
I can't be trusted.
My general rule, and I think it's a rule across the board, is that once a PC becomes non-playable anymore, they become an NPC. But yeah, so that was Jesse's arc. Any more questions for Julie's arc? All right, moving on to
Oof.
Cash, the
best one.
the most interesting one for sure.
Cash awakes to the slamming of doors and the fact that everyone except him and Hans are gone. As the panic steps in, the Reaper appears, apparently looking for something with a dowsing rod. They fight the Reaper for a moment before she disappears in the reflection of a glass window. As the room attendant kicks them out so that they can begin cleaning it, Hans and Cash hit the street.
Luckily, there was a Comic-Con happening this week, so Hans wasn't too out of place.
Where they discover a man fighting off a three-legged dog. The man in his encounter drops a suitcase and SWAT ballistic suits pop out. Cash and Hans then jump the guy who appears to be an Outlander. However, the cops arrive and arrest Hans and Cash while the Outlander plays the victim. Hans and Cash escape the police and regroup at the three-legged dog to find themselves at a high-end restaurant. They walk in and Cash strikes up a conversation with a man who reveals himself to be the head of the Bones family, Bradley Bones. Cash introduces himself as Wesley Barrett, which brings some familiarity to Bradley. Bradley sets up Cash with a meeting time for the Outlander and gives him permission to take him out. Meanwhile, Cash gets a concerned phone call from Michael telling him that the Reaper has infiltrated SWAT main base in Arizona and that they're moving to Chicago. Cash then meets with Bradley and is given the silver shoes to exchange with Hans. Cash and Season all attack and kill the Outlander before the police arrive. Cash hands the suits over to Bradley and they go back to the hotel where Hans accidentally uses the silver shoes and Cash and Season do as well. Now that everybody's back together, they fight the Game Master where Julie's eyes flash and scare the Game Master away. Unfortunately, Liam begins to disintegrate, but the Tin Man uses his magic to prevent that. Now that the third is gone, they all return back to SWAT main base.
Okay, a few things here. First,
A few?
a few. I have one of
I'm
my
gonna not
favorite.
say anything.
I have one of my absolute favorite quotes in the entire series, which is when Olivia teleports to us, and I go, "You would show up with a three-legged dog."
So, okay, real quick before we address the elephant in the room, I want to talk about how you chose, what you were expecting, and like what would have happened if each of us had not gone to Ozland. What if we had all succeeded? What would that have looked? What would that arc
The
have
mystery
looked like?
would have been And I kind of rewrote things because I didn't expect. I had written things
Or
for
what
all
if
of you
all
to
of
be.
us had gotten?
You all would have
Yeah.
been separate areas. I had kind of. I had written up to that point, and then we took a little bit of a break, so I wrote like off of that. But
Can I
essentially,
make a guess?
yeah, go ahead.
Wes started with the lions. I started with the Scarecrow King. Would Cash have met the Tin Man
Yes.
first?
Nice.
There we go.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah. So again, there's three of you. There's three like side characters in that thing. That's how it would have worked. If you all would have stayed, the mystery would have been where did Hans, Greta, Liam, and Guntar go?
Got it.
See, the
Got
thing
it,
is,
got
I
it,
feel
got
like
it.
Julie would have left. She would have been like, out of my expertise. She would have gone back to SWAT and been like, you guys have to deal with this.
Well, good thing you didn't.
Good thing it was me being an idiot for 2 hours.
Which is surprising because Cash actually has the lowest constitution out of all of you, but somehow rolled the highest.
Reaper.
I fought the Reaper, escaped jail.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's like one of the funny things too. At the meeting, when you're like, so I fought the Reaper, and Julie's like, I swear to God, Cass, you have to tell me this before you walk in the room.
And
Okay.
So are we gonna talk
is
about it?
Time for the biggest. This is the.
Well, let's talk about
for
one more
those-
thing. One more thing, actually, because I have been kind of sprinkling little bits of this throughout Cash's story. But the three-legged dog is a samjoku, which is a guard dog in Korean folklore. And when I stumbled upon that, because I was doing research for like stuff I could sprinkle in for Cash's backstory, I was like, oh, that's some synergy because Cash has the crippled leg, and this dog just traditionally has only 3 legs.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's like perfect. And so do your
I
research,
like how we've
DMs, if
also
you're gonna like.
continued that sort of motif of limb loss.
Mhm.
And like that is a part of Cash, but he doesn't let that define him. But
Mhm.
it's something that we have like been very consistent with, which I very much appreciated.
Yeah.
And were you okay? One question. So I did name the dog Season1, which has a Korean translation.
Mhm.
Were you expecting me to name the dog Sam?
No,
Okay,
I didn't.
gotcha.
If we're being completely honest, I didn't expect you to keep the dog necessarily.
It's
I had a-
me.
I had a-
Players always keep the animals.
That's fair.
Yeah, players
Didn't know
always
that.
keep the animals.
I had a different kind of idea of what
Aren't
the
you-
dog
aren't
would
you on
be in this
D&D
story.
memes?
I do forget
it wasn't
that the dog
until
is there
this.
though sometimes. So
That's fair. Yeah.
It is hilarious that the dog is more powerful than Cash.
yeah, she is.
Well, was.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get this
Let's
over
talk
with.
about it. So let's first talk about
when Cash jacked my backstory.
Well, let's first talk about what was going through your head after you
I
escaped
think
the
nothing.
police.
I think that was the. I think
No,
you said
'cause
nothing was going through your
we
head.
talked about this.
Elevator
What was
music.
going? You had just escaped the police. You were following this dog. You just got hit by a car.
I did get hit by a car. That is true.
What was going through your head as you saw this person counting an enormous amount of cash in this high-end restaurant?
We were at a bar and I got changed in the bathroom and I was like,
Yep.
"Oh, time to turn on the old charms here.
Slick
Try to
back
be
your hair.
cool, try to be like a James Bond kind of character." And I either saw the ballistic suits or I pretended to be
You saw the
drunk,
suitcase
I
of the
think.
ballistic suits.
Yeah, and I pretended to be drunk and then got like real serious. I flipped the switch.
Mhm.
And then he was like, "Who are you?" And I was like,
I imagine
Oh.
you giggling the whole time, like he doesn't know I'm faking it.
and literally the only name that I could think of that wasn't my name was Wes Barrett. It wasn't a like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like fuck up Wes's whole backstory.
I mean, you didn't.
You
You
didn't.
actually you spared
You
me
spared Wes
probably
from
from
a-
having me
yeah.
to do that. The same thing you did.
Yeah, like I wasn't like I didn't want to hijack that, and I didn't want to
Oh, no, that was a bit.
like
Olivia.
I know, but I didn't want to make it. I didn't want to like make it difficult
But
for Wes.
you didn't. You
But
also
it was
didn't
genuinely
know.
the first name that I thought of, and I forgot that we had mentioned it in
And
session 0
it's just
because it had been months at that point.
like that's just like some nice flavor from O'Neill's part to throw in like my character's backstory with Cash so that eventually that could get tied in. But we recorded these separately.
Yeah.
We recorded all of these like one-on-one with O'Neill, and I'm trying to imagine the delighted look of joy on O'Neill's face.
You could not
when you gave him
possibly imagine.
such a tasty nug.
You can hear it in the recording. I'm like, okay, all right. Even now, like that shook me to my. I thought Olivia did it on purpose just to be cool about it, to like be like, okay, maybe I can edge like some kind of like confrontation out of it, or like edge
I thought Olivia knew that or that.
And I remember like going back and re-listening to the like session 0 and the whole thing with Abigail, which I didn't remember that Bradley Bones was married to one of my students.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so that's an Easter egg that I kind of
Abigail
there's a lot of those in here.
Was married to Bradley, their ex-spouses. But I didn't know that, and I remember
she was coming to you for self-defense lessons.
Yeah,
that was the whole point.
So I remember later on where I was like, oh no, Tyler's gonna kill me.
But luckily it all went fine, right?
It was the crazy. I don't know how you were like, there were just points where I was just catching bullets and dropping them because I didn't want to kill any cops.
That was actually a very, because I had planned for you to be in the prison and escape it. I did not expect you to
straight through. I was like,
boink right out.
A dog, and I just ran through like Jackie Chan style, just bounced over people's heads and caught bullets and scared the shit out of the Kansas City Police Department.
Fine, they're we don't need to talk about politics right now. You all know where I stand with them.
So O'Neill, I feel like I can say that is one of the moments that surprised you the absolute most.
Just how buck
it was
wild
the first
I got.
time I had to completely improvise, and it felt good.
Can I ask what other, if there were any moments
up until now
like that? Yeah.
Botanist in Boston. I imagine you guys would. We've talked about this amongst
or like
ourselves.
The big. I feel like that one was like on a different magnitude, though.
Yeah, this was like the biggest. I mean, this was like. Again, I had to improvise the entire. I mean, I had a little bit of a layout for the prison from the inside for escaping, but I had to completely like reimagine what this scene was gonna be, and it turned out really well because I know Kansas City so well. I just know from the Jackson County Jail through downtown. I kind of truncated a little bit because honestly, it would have taken you a very long time to run out of downtown to the Northeast residence where you broke off to. But yeah, it was the best thing about it was I had Kansas City in mind already because it was in Kansas City, so I didn't have to completely make it up whole cloth, which was nice.
We also talk about the line, we're not in Kansas City anymore. That was so scrumptious. That was
that was pretty tasty. You broke out. That was the first cliffhanger because that was the end of a session, not just an episode. You ended that session with that. I was like, oh man, that's really good. That's the best session ending cliffhanger you've hit us with.
There's definitely one cliffhanger that I say it and then you're like, stop it, and then you say it after me.
Yes.
Where like I knew what you were. Is that the one?
Oh no, that was the right. It was the Aubrey plant reveal. The Feed Me Seymour.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts or notes about Magic in the Midwest before?
No, we still have to talk about the recap.
Made for a great arc.
That was one of the two times that O'Neill and I just like it was just the two of us. Just
simpatico.
Yeah, just nonstop role playing for like at least an hour.
It was very good.
Yeah. So that was like. This was when I was starting to like. I think this is when I started to like hate Cash a little bit, and that was something
which I still don't understand. But we can talk about it later.
Yeah, we will talk about that. But I hated this.
Let's go ahead and hit this R&R because this was actually pretty like.
If I remember right, Wes at this point after. Here, let me see if I can do it. I'm not even looking. So Wes, after having touched the darkness. Outlander, he was like, that's what I am. That's what I come from. So he's having his little moody preteen fit. And
let me go ahead and hit the recap from a more objective standpoint. There's a closed council meeting where they meet and seal the Oz discovery. Greta outs West for being an asshole and creates a divide between the investigations team and the strike team.
They find out that the Reaper has been captured in the Fairy Kingdom. Michael lectures Wes, Julie visits Bob, and Cash gets a phone call from Bradley Bones, letting him know that he needs Cash for a hit. Cash lets everyone know about the Bones thing. Wes freaks out. Cash has a contentious meeting where he agrees the hit is botched, and Cash ends up killing 2 dogs and facing off against Pierre, almost dying and killing Pierre instead. Julie finds more about this mysterious prisoner who knows her name, and the Lacuna does something strange to her. Cash now needs protection for his family and goes to SWAT. They allow his family's protection, but must partake in stealing the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, so coming out of Ozland, the three of us, we were pissed.
Yeah,
Like,
we were all upset.
Overall, we were upset,
Nobody was
first
happy.
of all, because SWAT ignored our warnings. We said, like, we don't know about this, and they're like, yeah, screw you guys.
Yeah,
So
let's
they
talk
put-
about this while
hate
O'Neill
SWAT.
isn't here to defend himself, because he's definitely wrong.
So at this point, I think on the way back, Wes pulls Julie aside and says, I need a bit of time off. Can you cover for me? Julie says, sure.
For me, I know O'Neill's not here to talk about it, but this is an actual interesting. I think that was the first like really good interplayer character scene we did.
Yeah.
Was you and me. We've talked a lot about whether our characters like trust or like each other. I think in the end, Cash and Wes are like drinking buddy type friends. But Julie trusts Wes, I think, and I think this is the start of where they like have a really
100%
Julie and
Julie
Wes definitely
trusts
have
Wes.
a good working relationship, which is interesting because I'd never expected Wes to be the one that Julie was like. He's the one that I like working with and is the most competent.
In episode 0, actually, when you were about to introduce us to Wes,
I was like, oh man, Julie's gonna hate.
that's the first thing you told. I think I went first. I made Julie, and then you said, oh, you're going to hate my character.
Turns out different. Yeah, for sure.
So I don't think Cash told me what had happened. So I'm pretty sure that when Cash is telling his story to the council, that is actually me hearing for the first time some of that stuff.
Because we had recorded separately.
But that is the point where we get the rift between us three and the entire rest of SWAT. Because when Greta starts like insulting Wes, what Julie sees is like this very like, you don't insult someone on my team, because she's been in a life or death situation with this guy. You do not throw him under the bus like that. So that's how you can tell she trusts him, because she immediately is like, well, I never want to work with them again because I can't trust them. So she starts like insulting Greta.
Yeah.
Cass
And,
just wants to make friends.
And Cash,
No, you were like completely silent while I was talking.
Yeah.
Cash was like catatonic.
Yeah.
well, except for at the end where Cash did flip off the entirety of the council.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
So I think everybody
forgot
went road
about
dog
that.
for Wes.
Yeah.
In that instance.
When I first faced off the game master, I make an aside, and I'm like, oh, what are you, the wizard? And he's like, I don't like that. I prefer game master. So that's why I only call him the wizard. And I think that causes some confusion sometimes.
Yes, because there are a lot of wizards in this game.
No, but I stick to that. But anyway,
I think the only other thing to mention for this R&R is immediately following the council meeting.
Yes.
Was Michael and Wes sort of had their first falling out
Of many?
of the season. Not
Yeah.
like, I don't think our relationship was ever good to start with, but I think that at that point it was like,
I think Julie's birthday was around here too.
Yeah, that was
oh
also.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
also Julie's birthday. Yeah. But I just wanted to say that as like a proud, for me personally,
That was
as like
an
a proud
incredible
role playing
scene. That was
moment between the
amazing.
two of us,
Yeah.
I'm not like toot my own horn or
No,
anything
it was
like that.
good.
But like for me,
Fantastic.
that was probably one of the better role play moments I've ever experienced in a game
Yeah.
that I've played. And then Cash killed a guy.
And then
And then I
Cash.
killed a man.
Well, 2 dogs and,
And
a
two
man.
I didn't kill the dogs.
here's
I
a-
didn't kill the dogs, but I did shoot one of the dogs. Dead
Well, you
body.
desecrated their corpses.
Here's another thing. For this session, at this point, Tyler's in London. O'Neill, Olivia, and I are in the same room. So I'm with Olivia. Well, I think it was like an hour and a half of your scene with this killing thing. And I remember you just like, your head is in your hands. You're like sitting on the floor. You're curling it. You're like under the
was
table.
under
You're
the
like, I
desk.
hate this. I hate this. I hate this.
Yeah.
You kept touching the radiator on
I
the
kept
side of the room
burning
and
my
burning
arm.
your hand.
Yeah.
I had originally planned for this hit to be like a scene, just one
short scene, I imagined that you were.
But I
and
complicate
obviously
things, sir.
that's fair.
Me-
That's
You
fair.
didn't want to go
Me,
through
You
with
didn't
it.
want to go
character
through with it.
use
I
a
thought you were just gonna
gun?
pull up and pop a cap in his ass
No!
and call it a day.
What if he did though?
That's what I had expected because
No.
I had a denouement for that scene, and then I kind of had to translate it over for Pierre, which was very interesting. All right, heists and harmonies. Do we have any more things we want to touch on between the two arcs that we've talked about so far?
9.
Okay.
As the heist planning begins, the investigation team takes a trip into the spirit realm where they solve puzzles, fight statues, and get sucked into orbs. Robert the elf is disturbed, and Cash hears himself calling out to himself in the spirit realm. Wes decides to see if he can get his memories back, but Scarlet, in tears, denies his request. They begin planning the heist. Cash sees strange glows around statues, and they begin executing on their plan. The day of the heist, Cash notices an old woman stalking around, but Wes goes in as usual. The heist gets off to a rocky start, but Wes manages to grab the Mona Lisa and leave, but then gets pursued by the victim of Samothrace. The whole gang fights the guards, and Wes barely escapes the Nike. They all return to SWAT, where they are told that they have to exchange it for the Reaper. They go to the Fairy Kingdom, where Wes actually lets loose his name to an elf named Sildor, but manage to avoid the problems because of it. They enter the Fairy Court and wine and dine. Cash meets Kumi, a fox spirit, and they notice Ashaldron, an ancient red dragon. They begin making offers and eventually present the Mona Lisa, which makes Ashaldron upset, and he offers something that can control the Outlands. The Mona Lisa ends up being a fake, and they end up getting thrown in the pokey with the Reaper. The Dwarven ambassador comes and says he bought TJ, the leader of the diplomatic team. Kumi comes to visit, saying that she bailed out Cash. Ashaldron comes and says he brought out the Reaper. As they leave, Sildor appears and breaks them out for a favor for Cash. As they all leave, they get stuck in a time loop and have to face their greatest fears and get separated. Julie overhears a conversation between the Dwarven ambassador and the enchantment chair's aide. Cash finds documents about deals between Beesbos and the Fairy Kingdom and kills 2 people. Wes runs into the Reaper and runs into his younger self. As they come together again, they end up going to Elfame's vault. Elfame revealed that she owed a debt to the Reaper, and the debt was paid. The Reaper's dowsing rods explodes. They fought the Reaper, and after she escaped, Elfame apologized for the roundabout nature of their meeting and offered her blessing for the coming hardships. She then loosed the Simulacrum against the gang, and Cash died again. When they landed in SWAT and tried to bring Cash back, they could not. Wes began to remember some of his lost memories and then blacked out.
Okay, a few things. Number one, we were stuck in a time loop. I'm sorry, what?
When we had to walk backwards, we got stuck in the dungeon going in a circle.
Yeah, but I thought that was like an illusion. I didn't realize it was a time loop. I thought it was illusion
Something
magic.
similar enough. I had a lot of fun with this arc, even though I was fighting with myself again, dealing with the loathing that I had for my character. But that's just like my own issues. But I think because I missed a lot of things with the glowing on the pieces of art and didn't say anything about it. I don't know what I would have said or what I was expected to say,
That's
but
fair.
it's like, oh, that statue's glowing. It's probably gonna attack us later. Like, not
Yeah.
really what I was expecting. I didn't realize the spirit realm was so literal, and
Oh yeah,
I
was more literal than
I
thought.
really enjoyed the spirit realm for the first time, and I don't know. I think that really started off with. I still don't know if I understand how Cash was able to talk to himself in the spirit
Whoa.
realm. I'm not quite sure I understood that. Or is that a spoiler for season 2?
We'll have to see.
Okay, so yes.
Yeah, all the Cash stuff was going to be my question. Those are the only parts that I wasn't clicking with, but I guess that's season 2 spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, I can't talk specifics, obviously, about it, but Cash heard himself calling out to himself in the spirit realm. A couple things from this arc. This arc was the first time you guys really diverged, and I had to completely change paths from what I had planned this
you're
arc
like,
to be.
I recommend you get all 3 items. We're like, nah.
Just one.
I had done that, and then when you guys were like, no, you weren't, I was like, okay, I'll replan it so that the heist is the only thing. And then when Wes said he was going in all by himself, I was like, I have to completely redo the heist. So the heist was originally going to be a replication of Night at the Museum. Ergo,
No.
the victory
Oh
of
my
Samothrace.
God, I'm so
But I had to
Incredible.
completely.
But also
I
the
had to-
Louvre doesn't have the natural museum little replicas of guys.
Yes, but I was going to use
So-
the painting. There was the painting of the. There was a painting that I was going to use. There was this little clay
the
statue.
bathhouse, yeah.
Yes, there was a whole bunch of art pieces I was going to use that were going to come to life and do various things. But I ended up having to change that just because it was a one-man
Between
job.
the planning and the execution of this thing, Tyler had gone to
I spent so much time out of. Oh yeah, I had in between when you telling us and the actual execution. I was in London and I went to Paris. My girlfriend was very annoyed that I was literally wandering around the Louvre. Like, I wonder where the best entry is to steal Mona Lisa.
She's like, stop, you're gonna get us arrested.
Yeah.
Interpol's gonna have
She's like,
our
look at all
ass.
this beautiful art, and I'm like, there's window, there's like glass ceiling in this room, and she's like, God damn it, Tyler. I don't remember quite the turn of events that led to me going in by myself. I think
it was the spell scrolls. We could not afford. Like, we already were asking big favors from the other chairs to make those two. Mm-hmm. Don't you remember they each gave Cash's favor was the witness protection, and then they gave us both each a favor.
Yes. So Julie's favor was used to get the transmutation chair to create the scrolls, or vice versa, and then the other favor was to get Michael to create that huge dispel magic scroll.
Isn't this also around the time where Cash starts liquidizing all of his assets?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
that too.
So he was ready to lay it all down for this mission because he wanted to.
So this is also the point where I think in the last council meeting they said, well, didn't you consult your spirit avatars? And we what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We what?
The spirit.
I'm sorry?
Real quick, I do want to talk about the spirit
when you
realm,
started introducing stuff about SWAT that we didn't know.
which
'Cause we missed
was
the
one
tour.
part me obviously using that Michael thing and just milking it, but also I had wanted to bring this stuff in the Magic of the Midwest arc, but it didn't feel appropriate.
I feel like it's important to mention that I did not have a voice going into that spirit realm. IRL, what happens is I go, wait, give me a sec. Can't you just give me a minute? I just woke up.
And it was so good. Justin, we've got to take a second to talk about your character creations, because we could talk about all of your character creation just on the fly, but Jessie, queen of character creation on the fly, just going after it, going so hard.
Jessie, I don't know if we've ever given you praise on mic about how we all agree that on the fly, one shot, make this character entertaining and interesting. Jessie is hands down the best
10
at
out of
it.
10, the best.
The get cracking.
Every one shot, every interesting. Yeah, get cracking. She had the funniest character in our Patreon, which I think we'll all plug all our stuff at the end of this one. Her character is by far the
so
funniest. Just props on that.
But also props to all three of you for essentially just jumping into a character that you all essentially made up one session before and just giving them
we were doing it until I walked in and Olivia's like, so I spent so much time making my character. I was like, oh shoot, that was today.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, she was a fighter. So I didn't, and I was like, wow, great. I don't need to think about it then. Mm-hmm. But that did lead to the entertaining moment when O'Neill's like, there's something rumbling. I'm like, I attack it. He's like, it's coming towards you. I'm like, I attack it. And he's like, it's a rock. And I'm like, I attack the rock.
Best kind of ending. I think that's the funniest ending we've ever had on an episode. That was very good.
I feel like I have a few other quotes I like in here. Oh, I don't know why this sticks out, but the beginning of this recording session is us right after I need you to steal the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
So now we're in the meeting talking about it, and we get here's my crime binder.
That's where crime binder came. That was off the dome, by the way.
That was amazing.
This is my crime binder.
I was like, shit, Wes probably has somewhere where he keeps all his crimes because he's an idiot.
I remember
he has evidence somewhere.
But yeah, this was a very interesting arc. Obviously, it was Wes Wes focused, but I think it was Cash leaning. I think Cash had a lot to do with this arc.
I mean,
especially
the only part that was really Wes heavy was the actual heist itself. After that, I felt like it was kind of fairly
Once
even.
we got to the wine and dining, Cash is the one who immediately found somebody in the room and started talking to them. I was awkwardly standing beside people talking politics, and I was yes, elections,
I talked to Blurog, but yeah, this is where Cash found his anime fox girl, his anime fox girlfriend.
Yeah, then we go to the prison, and I think at that point the three of us were so done at that point.
Well, I think let's not skip over the actual.
Oh yeah, the
actual.
okay.
That was very
That
good.
was funny
character work.
because
Going wrong. Because I wasn't expecting you guys to follow me into prison. I was doing that as like I had talked to Michael. It was like a character thing, and then
like
you
his
guys
son.
were
Cash-
all
but,
like,
but here's the thing, Cash at that point was already, I think Cash two
Hero
or three
complex.
times
Suicide
said,
watch.
no, like you literally said to the queen, just kill me. And like Julie's like clamping her hand over your mouth, like, shut up, I swear to God, or I will kill you. And you're like, do it, I dare you.
Yeah, that was
So at
Yeah.
this point, Julie is very much on suicide. Like, she actually is on suicide watch, which is why at the end, when he is dead,
So sorry.
trigger warning. I don't
I'm
know
sorry.
if that's the I
Yeah,
don't know if
that's
that's the
not-
exact
that's-
right phrase. It was more.
no, but she
Cash
is like
is a little more
actively
willing to
watching out
throw
for him
himself
to
into
do
things.
something she's actively watching him
Self-destruct.
because she knows he's going to
Because
make
he's
a
making
heroic
reckless
sacrifice.
decisions.
Yeah.
He's looking
Hero
to make
complex
some
is
sort
really
of.
getting
So that's why when at the
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
does end up dying through like heroic sacrifice, and I think she says to somebody like, yeah, we saw, like, I saw this coming. He like actually told us I'm trying to heroically sacrifice myself.
with that. Let's actually segue into the next R&R.
I called the Reaper being my mom.
Right before I
not
told you.
A little sooner than that. I didn't bring it up. I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to throw out a theory that I was going to get roasted on. But yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about that real quick. I had planned the Reaper being your mother super early. Because each of you has something backstory-wise that you guys didn't know and then found out. Julie's father was a part of SWAT, and then not her father, or birth father, Wes, Michael, and Emily. And the Michael uncle thing actually came after the Reaper being your mother. I was like, oh, that'd be interesting if like his father figure was actually his father figure to justify it. And then Cash's thing, we still really haven't gotten to.
We had so many theories about why Michael didn't have a last name. Not one of them was that he was my uncle.
No,
Not a
one of
single
them was
one.
'cause his
You
name
got
was
you
Michael
actually got me
Barrett,
with that
yeah.
one.
Yes, that was another thing.
Because
had
I think the
that
three
came
of
from
us,
that
the
as
three
well.
players, we legitimately, I think for 2 whole sessions, we're like, he's an Outlander.
Oh no,
Yes.
I like
You guys
I
had memes
believed
about
it
For real.
to the moment.
To the moment where
I
he
was
told
like-
me, I thought he was going to be like, I'm secretly an Outlander.
I
and
was
like,
Like your dad's an Outlander.
I like almost definitely thought that when the Reaper was your mom and then he was the brother, I was like, so they're both Outlanders. I'm definitely thought that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Anyway.
So
I have one last thing.
Yes.
This is a moment, this is a session also where Julie gets horribly traumatized because Amber brings up like a rock wall out of a wooden floor.
yes.
And then we find out that they're low-key cousins, but maybe
And I like
not.
walk away like really hurt by oh my god, that
And
was
then
we were in the
because the players, we have like our own separate group chat to like
Yeah.
talk
You
shit
guys can talk about
during
this.
games. Not talk shit. We theorize. And we had sort of the idea that Julie had this thing for Amber. We guessed. We didn't. We pretty much thought.
I think I said it.
Yeah.
You guys were told. You guys had told each other, but you hadn't told me. But I had already picked up on it way.
Oh,
before.
he knew
He
because
knew.
I wasn't being like
Subtle
discreet
about
about it.
But you're talking about them being cousins, and Jessie is like freaking out. She's like, shut up.
I think I say it 4 or 5 times in a row. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Shut up. I remember when we were done with that session, Olivia and I were in the staircase, and I actually just sat on the floor in the corner for a minute, and I was like, oh!
That was very good.
I was like, this is why I don't tell O'Neill these things, because he ruins them.
Yeah, just to, I think this is something that we said we wanted to talk about earlier. Now's as good a time as any now that we've brought it up. You bring up Amber and we mention Fox girlfriend. I was not expecting any romantic relationships in SWAT. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't expecting it.
I wasn't expecting it either necessarily. I hadn't planned for any of these to become romantic
I cannot
interests.
tell you
But
what first gave me the idea, to be honest. I honestly do not know.
There is one last thing I want to say. That this is one of the times where I really appreciate that our episodes are sound designed, because when they bring Cash's body back and you have Darla crying and the dog whimpering.
That's
my
fucking-
heart.
Well, let's talk about it in the R. Let me do the R&R
Okay.
thing, and then we'll get to that.
Oh, and one last thing about relationships before we go. If any of you are clamoring for a Wes relationship, it's not going to happen because Leela and I think it would actually be too sexual.
Yeah, we might
if he and
actually,
I
like-
tried to do a romance
Because we
together.
are already an explicit podcast, we might hit that extra
NC-17.
NC-17 podcast, and I think we just get taken off of iTunes for that. So.
I've just known O'Neill for too long, so it's just kind of weird. Not gonna lie, I'm not gonna lie to you guys.
R&R 4 Part 1.
Wes wakes up and confronts Michael. Michael reveals that not only is the Reaper's mother, but Michael is Wes's uncle, and the reason Wes's childhood was destroyed. Julie finds out that her mother has cancer and that her birth father really isn't her father. They have a funeral for Cash, and Jack tells Wes and Julie that he hasn't moved on to the afterlife yet and implores the genius youth Nelson Bigby to help find the soul of Cash.
Nelson Big Boy.
This was a very I truncated to be
New
very short, but there's a
character.
lot in this. Yeah, in this R&R.
Do we want to talk Nelson?
Let's talk the Wes and Julie thing first, and then we'll talk Nelson, I think. Because we were just going to talk about not Wes and Julie, but the Wes thing, the Julie thing, and then we'll talk about Nelson.
Yes.
Okay. How was
I don't know if I have much to say. I think we've already talked about Wes's.
going
Wes
through the
and
memories
Michael.
now, like actually being able to actually like go through the memories? What were you thinking when that was going through?
At first,
Or
I was
was
like,
it?
okay, where is this going? And then the eventual reveal is she was a council member and he was an Outlander. I'm like, it's all clicking now. I don't know the backstory to that, but like what happened to in Wes's actual life, that clicks for me. But maybe we'll find out the more backstory about it. Season 2. Plug.
And I think, we talked about Julie and finding out that her mother had cancer and her not birth father. Julie, Jesse, I want to know what you were thinking, what you were going through thinking about when I revealed that it wasn't your father. Because I know that when it was revealed that your father was in SWAT and that you were related, you had like such a negative reaction to it. What was the opposite reaction that you had? Or the next reaction that you had?
I think the biggest point there was concern, because up until that moment, she had been like waving away a lot of the weird stuff that had been happening to her. Because if she's like the first, they're saying like plebeian allowed in SWAT. Like, okay, well, I have something magic, right? But now it's like, I'm not magic at all. Oh shoot, there's something wrong with me.
Okay, interesting. We'll get to the next part there.
We never. Julie's eye thing hasn't been explained yet.
Oh no, it has.
It
it's,
has.
It's
I know
through
it has something
the
to do with-
stepsister.
It's related.
I'm
to
not gonna
Gwen.
lie. I don't.
Hasn't been fully revealed
You're
yet.
gonna have to
Julie's
explain
story
that to
is
me.
Okay.
so complicated.
Okay.
with
It is very
So-
complicated. We'll get to that because there's a part we'll get to where it gets revealed. Let's talk
Fine.
about Cash's funeral. My question for you is, why didn't you guys speak at Cash's funeral?
Not gonna lie, I heard a little bit.
You said it was 3. You said it had been 3 months that we'd been working together.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That is
That's
true.
not very long. I think our justification at the time was I don't think they would have let Wes talk.
Oh yeah. I mean,
And then Julie's Julie.
yeah.
So
I am the.
I think it narratively it makes sense. I think maybe it wasn't the most meaningful podcast wise or
wasn't it
content.
open
wise.
My
casket?
feelings.
It was
personally
open
a little
casket.
bit.
Okay, that explains
Look,
it for me.
if you
then.
kill Cash again, Wes will
Oh,
talk.
perfect. Thanks.
Fantastic.
Now they've known each other a year and 3
Here,
months.
Well,
I-
think about it this way, because they'd known each other for 3 months. Think about it this way: if Nelson had a funeral at the end, would Wes and Julie talk at Nelson's funeral? I don't think so.
Here, I can tell you what the thing is there. Why part of why I didn't talk.
Uh-huh.
In my religion / culture, we only have closed caskets. So I feel very odd for an open casket. And that translated to I didn't know how to play a character in that situation because I genuinely don't know what to do in those situations.
That's fair.
Okay, that makes sense.
Interesting. Okay.
Maybe I was also just a little lazy. Moving on.
And then we have Nelson.
Yeah, and then we have Nelson.
Souls and Sales.
Well,
Let's talk.
yeah. Let me do the souls and sales thing. I think we'll bring Nelson into it kind of organically.
Yeah.
Following the soul beads, what's left of the investigation team and Nelson ship off to find Cash's soul.
They enter an astral storm, which causes Nelson to appear in person. Wes starts a fight and gets a man killed, but they continue on the course towards the Bastion of Unborn Souls. They reach Ashalderon's manor in the Bastion and break in to discover Cash fighting off a demonic Kumi. We find out that because time is different in the astral plane, Cash has been with Kumi for nearly 3 months. Kumi asked Cash to fight off the curse since it was better than going to whatever bad place he was going to, and he agreed. The two grew close each day, and he would keep her at bay to keep her from breaking her fast. They all decided to try to get Cash, Nelson, and Kumi out of the astral plane by binding Cash's souls to Kumi and then teleporting Nelson and Kumi out of there. The teleportation was almost successful, but Nelson and Kumi ended up in Phaeton. Wes and Julie ended up in Phaeton. And Wes, Julie, Michael, and Jack had to go and rescue him. They returned back and brought Cash back to life.
He's like, just give me another minute, guys, okay? We're like, whoa.
Yeah, this was an improv story arc from on your part.
Yep,
I know
completely.
not the whole thing, but was there ever a scenario where Cash was just dead and we weren't going to go get him?
There
or
was.
did you want to go get him just to complete his arc?
There
Like,
was
what were you thinking there?
one where Cash, you guys we were just going to leave Cash behind. Me and Olivia talked about it actually for a little bit, and we decided that it would be best to kind of let this story play out, like the adventure to go get Cash, and then once you kind of get up to that point, let Cash decide like whether he wants to stay or go.
Yeah.
Tyler, I think you forget that after this recording session, we were all in Boston. You, me, and Olivia went to go get lunch, and I made a chart, a pro-con list of keeping Cash.
That's
Oh my
right.
god, I
Kill-
forgot
or-
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we decided to take him back because one of the things that O'Neill, you low-key threatened me. You were like, if you give him up, he's mine. And I said, nope.
I mean, that is
I
the
took
deal.
him back. And I think if it weren't for Kumi, he probably would have just like kept going. He would have gone to hell or wherever he was going.
Mhm.
But I think he had made that promise to Kumi and wanted to sort of keep it. So this is where I think this session single-handedly sort of changed the game for me, in terms of how I felt about Cash, and like who he was as a person, because he didn't have to fight anything. He just had to like be a person and keep a promise, which was a very simple thing for him to do. And I think this is what really did it for me, why I wanted to keep him around.
Yeah.
And I hated him considerably less at this point.
For sure. Some highlights from this one. Wes kind of had a character turn in this one as well.
Literally, no one remembers that Julie shoved a man off the ship into the ocean to die.
Was that a
Like,
he
everyone
lived.
only gives Wes credit for killing someone here. Julie also
that guy
killed
lived.
someone.
Well, you killed you
No,
you shoved a
polymorph?
you shoved one of those creatures. Those things are fine in the astral sea.
come
They're
on.
fine.
Yeah,
but the fact that Wes got a
Let's talk about this as a turning point for Wes and his character arc throughout the first season. I think at the start, definitely the first couple arcs, he doesn't see himself as a hero or a villain. He's just called in. He's doing a favor for Michael. And then around Heist and Harmonies, it gets kind of personal for him. And especially after Cash dying, I know like they weren't particularly close at that point, but they'd gone to a Red Sox game. They worked together for a while. They were friends. A lot was sort of happening. That was sort of just like during this arc, I was just kind of thinking, Wes is stressed out. Like he's burnt out and stressed a little bit and probably shouldn't have been going on that mission in the same way Nelson shouldn't have been going on the Heist and Harmonies mission, if that makes sense. Literally, you found my character blowing shit up and you were like, to relieve stress, and you were like, this guy needs to go on an important mission to the astral plane. But yeah, I think it kind of was a wake up call for him heading into the last arc, where he definitely tried to play it. I mean, and we'll talk about it. I played it a little more cool and tried to stick to the plan a little bit more, and in doing so, missed some key points.
Well, I would say that on Wes's part, you performed much better than I think if Wes would have been presented this arcs before. I think it could have gone much worse.
Yeah.
Souls and Sales, or
no, sorry,
Drinks and
I was
Dances?
the next one, Drinks and Dances. I think this turn in Wes's character actually provided a lot of safety drops and changes that I think wouldn't have been reflected in Drinks and Dances if you hadn't had this moment in Souls and Sales.
And not to get too far ahead of myself, but I think I just want to finish talk about Wes's character arc in like sort of one conversation here is I think after Drinks and Dances heading into sort of the finale, which I don't know if you've told us the name yet.
I haven't
but
specifically come up with a name yet. I think I'm going to call it, but I don't know yet.
We're right towards the end of Drinks and Dances as we record this. I think the death of Michael and everything that happens in that, he's like, oh, I don't know. I had to think for a long time how that would affect Wes, because he was coming into this sort of like, okay, I'm going to try and be a better person and, stick to the script a little bit more. And then I'm not going to spoil anything for what's going to happen in season 2, but I think Michael's death and the whole situation sort of led to him being like, fuck it, I'm going to make my own script. I'm going to write my own script.
Rewrite your own story, perhaps?
Perhaps. Because he was avoiding it,
yes.
and then he was like, fine, I'm going to play into it. And then he's like, fuck it, I'm going to do my own thing. So I think we can move on.
R&R 4 Part 2. With Cash back, they brief the council on what happened, and afterwards they resolve to get to the bottom of why things aren't adding up. They are promoted, strangely, and are given more regular missions over the next 3 months. They discover Chupacabra, slay innocent Earth elementals, and save a doppelganger clan from being killed by the Wild Hunt. Wes reads about Outlanders, Julie refuses to go to the Spirit Realm, and Nelson discovers some strange emails between his father and Jeff Bezos. You all are given your next mission to retrieve an ale that the King of Dwarf wants very badly. Nelson and Wes enter the Spirit Realm while Julie confronts Lacuna about the voice in her head. Lacuna warns that there's evil brewing, but Julie disregards her. In the Spirit Realm, Garnog is poisoned and put in suspended animation, and T1NK joins their party. They fight against Dragon, establish a society, and face off against Robert. They do battle against Beholder and Robert, and they vanquish the darkness and bring about the divergence of Gaia and Phaeton. Nelson gets out and freaks out to his dad, who tries to turn him off, and Julie takes him to her place to spend the night and hopefully do something about it in the morning. Nelson leaves in the middle of the night, apparently, and Julie has a strange dream about her mother who wasn't hers in a monster attack. They all go to the Dwarven Kingdom with Blorog, Ziv, and Zav, where King Albacrassus is not ready for them. Nelson and Wes enjoy a night of drinking, while Julie discovers some shady figures in robes, but doesn't pursue them. They all meet the king and are given a map and a time constraint and begin their journey. They are attacked by trolls in the forest, basilisks in the desert, and made it to the harshest Havel. There they were met with some passive aggression, but find the campsite of nomadic peoples. There was a palm reading, and Wes was told the story of the Lucky Foot. That night, metallic dinosaurs attacked the city and stole people from their homes. They investigate and find a portal to the dinosaur world. They enter their domain after some discussion and find the Jurassic Paradise. The investigations team was brought before the Society of the Winged, Amphibious, and Terrorbound, and you all made a deal to bring back evidence of your journey to them. In order to get the Gnomish people released. Julia decided to go back and get the rest of the story from the Spirit Realm, oversaw the creation of Gaia, her annulment with the Phoenix, and met her stepsister. They traveled to the scary forest due to some impulsiveness from Nelson, alerted whatever aberration was inside. They traversed through a dungeon, seeing boy bands almost falling in lava and murking my guy Karchuk, R.I.P. Nelson then overheard a conversation between the Game Master and another Outlander, an aberration. Without being able to hear too much more of what was going on, Nelson was whipped up into a frenzy and attacked. They all attacked and fought the aberration, its pet, and a tree for some reason. They made it into the vault to find a number of wild things, including ale and a fan that was seemingly troubling to Ziv and Zav. Ziv and Zav left, leaving you four, including Blorog, to negotiate for the Gnomish people. The negotiations went sour, your minds were wiped, and you were set on your way. The night before you all were to trade the ale, Julie mysteriously disappeared, having been controlled by the aberration's pet, which her stepsister Gwendolyn dispatched of. On her way back, she met up with Nelson and Wes, but told them to go on ahead, getting terrible news from the palm reader about her mother. The trade goes sour for Nelson and Wes as the king gets assassinated and they're blamed. They teleport back to SWAT, which is dealing with the Reaper's capture, is almost empty. They face the council and are told that they will be going to trial. Julie says goodbye to her mother. When she steps out for fresh air, she is confronted by the Game Master, who reveals he was the cause of Julie's mother's death. Enraged, Gwendolyn manifests and attacks the Game Master, who disappears. Dense arc, that one.
Can I just say, had Julie not remembered that whole sequence, it would have been so funny. If Amber comes up to her and be like, so what were you talking about? Like a society of dinosaurs? And Julie been like, are you high?
Are you on drugs? What? No. What?
Can I have
dinosaurs? What are you talking about? Yeah. So a couple things here. We can talk about the second part of the Spirit Realm first.
Oh my god, I loved this. I loved this arc. Oh my god. I loved finding that damn robot.
We talked about it a little bit before, but again, I do want to congratulate you guys on essentially hopping into a character you guys played twice, but giving them like fully fleshed out like emotions and like motivations. And that was
We already had talked about my first favorite role play scene to actually be in was Wes and Michael, but my moment with you and me and Tink
Yeah.
on the hill watching sheep off the
so
dome. We were fucking that was so fun. It was so fun to play a moment like that.
Yeah, you guys did really great. Even though Julie wasn't in it necessarily, and Julie had her own moment later, like Clarissa's like emotions towards Tink's death and like your shout no, like when they're like casting the thing to like save the world was like, oh, so good. Yeah, I really just like want to congratulate you guys on that.
I swear to God, there better be a cult out there that is just dedicated to turning Tink back on.
We'll have to see.
Because that would be the funniest.
I love that damn robot. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Tink was also like just a beautiful just creation.
And like it was a good thing for me too to really think about what I was gonna say before I said it. And when she finally does like stutter, it's because she's scared.
Yeah.
Probably for the first time in her existence.
Which is
facing up against Robert, which like guts me, and it was me.
Yeah, that's so good. We can let's just go ahead. I'll go ahead and just put this out on the table.
Please tell us what this arc was supposed to be about.
This whole arc was supposed to be you guys discovering that you guys were being set up by the enchantment chair.
Ah, okay. So we were supposed to have figured that out at this point.
Yes, there were 4 different times where you could have. So the first one,
goddamn,
the first one in the Dwarven Kingdom. Well, technically, you guys could have figured it out at all if anybody cast the spell Identify on the map that you guys were given.
The map?
The map that Julie was using to lead you guys.
That the enchantment chair gave us.
Yes, because that you would have found out that map was a fake.
What was wrong with
the
it?
only person who has to identify was Nelson.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we didn't think it.
What was wrong with the map?
It was fake.
It was a fake.
How was it fake?
like-
we ended
But
up.
we
It was,
found
there was
ale.
some kind of.
Oh my god! Hold the fuck up. So there was a separate location that was on the fake map. Oh my god! So there was a completely different built facility that the enchantment chair was sending us to. So the real ale is still out there because the fake one is what we ended up giving to King Albatraxis.
Wow, the second time
Wait.
you've given us the fake thing. What happened with the Mona Lisa?
the
We didn't even answer what
I
happened
got
with the
it.
Mona Lisa.
I
Cash
cashed
got
it.
the real Mona Lisa.
The ale was fake? I didn't even know
Yeah,
that.
because it
Why
ended
did
up
Cash
being
have the
well, so
poison?
I
Oh, I thought someone came and assassinated him. I thought...
So he was.
I didn't realize
poisoned
it was
and then
poison.
Assassinated. So when Nelson was gonna tap the barrel, he was gonna tap the.
That was
barrel,
actually that's the 5th one.
Which
If Nelson would have tapped the barrel, that would have also told you. So
yeah, but if you'll remember, the Dwarven King said, like, if any of you take a
Yes.
sip, I will know and I will kill
yes.
you.
So
And
let me
Nelson
break
was
it
gonna
down
do
because
it.
it's actually very, very strange. Like if this were to be filmed, if this was be a television series, it would make for like amazing dramatic irony. So the trolls were a small hint, but something that could have also told you that something was wrong. They had instructions from Elfame about something coming up, which they would be needed for battle, which would alluded to the war. The biggest one was the desert. In the desert,
Basilisk.
you had all those stone figures. If you would have done one of the stone figures, there are two kinds of stone figures in there. There was one that was part of the insurrectionist movement for the Dwarven Kingdom. The other one were people looking for the ale. And if you would have looked at
would have
one
had
of
the right
them,
directions.
they had a map that had that location as the location for the ale.
So the fake.
Dip.
So the
fake
real ale
location-
was underneath where the basilisk had burrowed underneath.
Oh, I get it. So the real ale was inside us all along.
Exactly.
Oh, so the real ale was in the desert.
Yes.
Okay.
What
would you have done if we found the real ale?
You would have been able to deliver it, and then you would have also figured. I would have dropped a few more clues to let you figure out that something was going on within SWAT, and that.
But like, would the king have drinking it and then been assassinated anyway? No. Okay.
And the assassins were the cloaked figures that Julie saw but did nothing about. Okay.
Yes.
How were they able to replicate our? Were they casting like disguise self as us?
Yeah. There's a spell called Seeming. That's why you guys had to make charisma saving throws. Seeming can cause you to look like other people, and then they
can use it to also
Swap
make themselves
images. Yeah.
exactly. And then
I think the mindset going into this mission for me was when we went into the Mona Lisa mission, they said, if you get caught, we're going to wipe our memories so we don't know you, and you will be hunted down and killed by SWAT members. So from that point on,
so ready to go rogue.
Yeah.
from that point, I think all of us were a little bit more of the mindset of if we screw up, they're not coming for us. So that's kind of like why I didn't go.
And that's a fault on me for sure, because I wanted to dissuade that thought from happening with the 3 months where you guys were getting kind of more regular missions. But obviously that was not the case. Real quick, I just want to talk about the fourth one that I had set up, which was in the vault. Nelson saw this but didn't go further. You would have seen that, and this wouldn't have necessarily been a clue to the ale being wrong, but something else that was happening. If you would have gone further in, you would have seen a chamber of clones. You would have seen a clone of the creature you just fought. You would have also seen a clone of a beholder.
Oh, yikes.
Which then appeared.
So was that a real beholder that was coming to go get us?
Yeah, I think because Nelson was being gassed to death.
Yes.
So he was trying to move quickly.
Yeah, not faulting for any of that, but so that's what the art was originally going to be.
I do have a question about the fan with Ziv and Zav, because we found out about their dads who are like soul-bound dragons that created these tiny little boys, and these very good brothers. And what was the fan related to? Okay, season 2. Gotcha.
Season 2.
Real quick, going back, I think I'm lost on the Mona Lisa thing. You said that Cash did have the right one, and Elfame lied
vault,
that it was a fake.
No, in Elfame's vault, you guys found the real Mona Lisa, and it had a similar glow that Cash had seen on the other items in the Louvre.
So why? So it was just fake all along then? It was never switched?
I think I can explain this to you because I don't think this will come up in season 2. What happened was the enchantment chair had originally stolen the Mona Lisa during the Mona Lisa's exchange to the temporary spot, as some of you guys had theorized, and then traded that to the Elfame to continue their debt exchange.
So we stole the actual Mona Lisa.
You stole the fake Mona Lisa that the enchantment chair had put there. I think I did mention that in the finale when I was breaking down the thing, but it might have gotten interrupted or what have you.
Okay.
During the finale, I was too busy photoshopping a battle scene with
Yes.
dinosaurs.
Yeah. Oh, I do want the what I know what Olivia's reaction was to the game master appearing at the hospital. I wonder what Tyler your reaction was, and Jesse, I want to know what your reaction was.
I don't know what Olivia's reaction to that was.
Loud?
You were
Didn't I say
Olivia
I
did
was
the
gonna
thing. Yes.
Don't know what was happening there. I'm not gonna lie. Wes wasn't there, and my logic is like I listen for like a general idea of what's happening. The details, I find that I roleplay better when I don't know. So I kind of try not. I don't want it to sound like I'm like lazy and get on my phone and like stop paying attention. But like I don't really know what was happening there. So when he showed up, I'm like, all right, sounds about right. I wasn't following.
Gotcha.
I'm overly invested.
Also, card check. Do we want to mention card
Oh
check?
my god. So we mentioned it
I
in,
just was looking at the thing.
The episode that's coming out next. That like you guys just fucking splooted.
I think he
Carmen and Chuck.
he was like aiming something at us. Or
Yeah,
he's gonna attack us.
And
I
you
splatted
guys
him.
smoked him, and Nelson was really upset because he knew who he was and wanted to help him. And you guys were just like, nope, he dies. And Nelson was like actually really angry at you guys, at Wes and
because
Julie.
he attacked us. I was protecting Nelson.
Yeah, Nelson did not want to be protected.
Because Nelson is a child.
Yeah, that was another thing. I felt like
A
very
small bean.
quickly you guys were like, this is my son. Don't talk to me or my son ever again.
Yeah.
Julie and Wes got really
protective,
parenty with Nelson.
Well, they had gotten one team member killed, so now they have a kid who's 17.
Yeah, I think it
joining
was
them.
literally like a combination of if Nelson was their first teammate, they probably wouldn't have been as careful, but like Cash died and now they're giving them a literal child. They're like,
And
oh shit, we can't fuck this one up.
So we didn't actually talk about Nelson, so we'll just do that really quickly. I gave Olivia, because she said she wanted to play this artificer that we as a bit
That came out like the week before.
And so
I'm still angry about it. I love Nelson, but I'm still angry about it.
and so I said you'll play an artificer, and then Olivia came up with the whole Nelson thing, and then we actually collaborated. Because I just wouldn't have had time to kind of lay in like backstory stuff that Olivia didn't know about. So we kind of collaborated on what Nelson's hidden backstory would be. And I still have parts I'm holding back just for like surprises, but there is like we did some collaboration.
He was a robot.
No, that was supposed to be for season 2.
Yeah.
But we just brought that right in.
He found the emails, so it's kind of made it hard to, because he rolled.
No, I mean that was perfectly fine. Turned out very good
That was another time that I really enjoyed role playing. Was anytime Nelson and his dad have any sort of interaction. I feel like that's a really good like role play pair.
I like listening to those.
Yeah.
That sweet Southern accent.
Yeah, and you guys can't do it.
Whatever.
All right, finale and fate. In the SWAT base, Nelson's Amazonian Alexandria begins speaking and talking strangely, and Wes and Nelson hear what appears to be an attack on SWAT headquarters, revealed to be led by a somehow revived Pierre. They do battle, but not before some of Pierre's lackeys blow up a portion of the Hall of Memories. Julie's pursued by the terrorist unit that seems to be out for blood and barely manages to escape. As she arrives to the base, she sees Bob run out, but he's quickly devoured by plants that burst out of him, revealing a revived plant Clarissa. Julie fights it off and rushes into the building. At this point, everyone is united and given Elflame's blessing, and the trio investigate why this is happening. They fight drones in Bebos' office, rescuing Dar, Cash's sister, and they stumble into the enchantment chair's office, who reveals that they have been part of a plan to stretch SWAT's resources thin so that he could plunge Gaia into the Outlands. He deactivated Nelson, and he and Bebos disappear into a portal to Phaeton. Right as the enchantment chair is about to finish off, Julie, Cash appears, and they all fight him together. They each stagger through the portal to Phaeton right as it's being destroyed by a massive Ashalderon. They face an army of foes, from dwarves to earth elementals to dragons, all prepared to march on the established gates to Phaeton from SWAT. Beesbos transforms into Mecha Dragon Beesbos and nearly kills the trios outright. Wes's necklace, given to him by Michael, opens the portal that allows the council to appear and come to their aid. As they regain their strength, more forces come to their aid as they charge up the mountain towards the enchantment chair. And with the aid of the people they've helped along the way, they almost make it to the top before being ambushed by the Game Master and Entropy. They were transported to the Outlands in the Game Master's game. They barely escaped with their lives and became confronted with Michael Mouse. He barely let Wes go, and they appear at the bottom of the mountain. They see the divination chair climb up their path, and he and the enchantment chair plunge off the mountain into the gates to the Outlands. Michael, Wes, and the conjuration chair Ethan combine their forces to merge Phaeton and Gaia, and with that, SWAT was disbanded. Wes goes to Michael's funeral, Cash gets hunted by Josing Saija, and Julie confronts Amber and gets a message.
And that's what you missed on Glee.
I went to Michael's funeral and his will reading as well.
Yeah.
And Jordan
Jordan was also at the will reading.
Tried to summon something real bad to get Michael back, and Wes was
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sorry, what are you
and then
freaking stupid? What are you stupid?
Yeah. And then Wes adopted Jordan at that point.
This is my brother.
Oh well,
This is my son brother.
That's what it felt like.
this is what this
we'll
is
get
getting
into season 2 for that, so we're not going to talk about any of that specific stuff past
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
we're not
get
gonna
eaten
get.
by
We're
death.
gonna. Can we do our years next week? I haven't played D&D in goddamn 6
we'll
months.
talk
I'm
about
so
the
excited.
build after this.
A schedule.
Yeah, so the finale.
Oof.
Was the
Fuck
finale.
anything with those stupid fucking gremlins. Waste of our
Olivia?
goddamn time. Made me so angry.
Olivia, you don't get
No,
it.
I understand it was like the 100 levels where you guys all died at the end. Like, I get it, but it was fucking stupid. During the finale of our podcast of the first season, that's how we decided to end it, by taking a fun little trip.
That's not how we decided. That's how O'Neill
Hey,
decided.
listen, you
Come
guys
on.
had to go through the game.
Like that's for those deep cut fans that don't exist.
That's for those heavy.
I know.
Heavy
The thing
fans.
is, Tyler and I were
Sweaty.
actually
Those are for our
crying
sweaty
because we
fans.
couldn't tell Olivia what happens if you pull the lever.
Yeah, sorry, gang.
So we
Because
were
knew.
crying.
Also, we couldn't play
Yeah.
it that way.
Yeah.
we couldn't play it that way because we do.
Yep.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I think we mentioned it briefly, but there's a old. I don't even know if it's. Is it on the
It's
other?
on the other feed still.
on the other feed with Campaign 1, we did a game in the summer while we were recording in Campaign 1 in between those 2 seasons that O'Neill ran, where he was like, it'll tie into my Campaign 2. And we're like, all right, this will be fun. And audio quality's bad.
Oh, terrible.
And
You don't have to listen to it.
You don't, please don't
Basically,
go listen.
I mean,
we're
you
going
can.
through.
I just
We're
wouldn't
going through a
recommend you
dungeon. Each room is its own little puzzle, and one of the puzzles was that.
was the Gremlins, yes.
It was the same exact thing. It was the same.
No, it was a
the game master
easier
was
version
in it.
of it because
Yes.
the one we faced.
We were also higher level.
Yes.
Yeah, the one that we faced more recently, it had rain between every turn rather than like
They
every
doubled
third
every
turn.
turn if they were wet, yes, because I base that off of an actual like D&D thing. Well, the Mogwai,
Yes,
but also
the first time we did that, they did not double every turn. I think they doubled like every other turn.
in
Whenever
the
they were in
original one, they
water.
doubled every round. For you guys, they doubled every turn.
Yeah.
That was
But
it.
anyway, the point being,
That's where Lacuna comes from. Also,
Yes.
she was
And the game
that's where
master.
Lacuna was Jesse's character.
SWAT is revealed at the end of that,
mention earlier.
yes.
That's why Jesse was up shit sheeting its player. When is my I was a teenage werewolf character gonna come into it?
If you can remember, think back to what happened to your teenage werewolf buddy.
He did.
Well, everybody died except
He
Lacuna. We
Thanos.
get it. He Thanos snapped
Yeah.
us. Which a Marvel stealing RIP.
Yeah.
Can there be like
But yeah, anyway,
etched into
moving
the
on
wall
to the
of
actual
Lacuna's
final.
cell, like really primitive sketches of all the other characters in that game?
There you go. That's good enough for me.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I think the most interesting part of the final part for me was Michael Mouse for Wes, because he was like,
Oh, he was like, I can't let you through.
I can't let Outlanders back in. How did I can't remember how I got around that. I was like,
I had you roll luck, and there was a cost. There's going to
I
be a
did
cost
roll
to it
luck.
in the future.
Oh, that's also where we first played. That game is where we first played the luck mechanic.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was where he.
I also
playtested
still
the
owe a
luck
favor
mechanic.
to Seal Door. Cash still owes a favor.
Season 2,
Season
baby.
2.
Yeah.
That was from before when you died, right?
Yes. And we were like, you guys were
I
like,
think
he's dead,
death
doesn't
absolves
count.
it.
And it's like, nope, he's back.
I think death absolves
Well,
it.
it would have to come down to elf law.
We don't
What?
know.
So one thing that I think was that
I
you
liked
guys,
asking for help. That was a fun mechanic.
yes, I did. I'll just say it straight out. I did kind of pull that from
Ganked it from
the Adventure Zone, just because I wanted something. Because I wanted you guys to be able to you guys were essentially doing an uphill battle, and I wanted you guys to kind of be able to reflect on all the people you've helped, but also the people you've hurt. And I think that kind of the climbing mountain to the finale, the peak of the finale, was a good analogy for
Nice metaphor.
If we had successfully saved those Earth Elementals, would that have saved us one round of combat?
Same with the Dwarven Kingdom. Same with I mean, there was just some built in, obviously.
I think we have to go back and 100%
Yeah, they're
this
they're
game,
just
okay?
bad guys. So
Yeah, you guys have to go back and 100% it. But so
Fight the
the
mech dragon. Oh, Nelson got turned
no,
off,
no,
too.
100% the SWAT campaign.
yeah.
Going back what we know now, get that 100% completion.
So yeah,
rate.
Nelson.
But
So
yeah.
a couple highlights from this: the attack on the SWAT base by apparently Pierre and the Bones.
It's pretty good. I smoked Pierre in a wizard duel, and then I didn't do much
Didn't you
else.
turn
The rest
into a
of the time.
Tyrannosaurus Rex and try to collapse the floor?
Well, I still
I think you tried to
O'Neill's-
a woolly mammoth or something.
He turned
or-
into a
no, it was
T-Rex.
T-Rex.
Okay. And then we
O'Neill's
started going into the.
does
It does
make
check
sense,
out because it
but
is a magical base. They would have
it
like
was- it
It
strength.
does check out.
Here's what my
I personally, I believe it was like O'Neill wouldn't know what the fuck to do
Collapse the
if I
floor.
destroyed his portal
if
to
this was
the
any other
final
building, I would have
campaign.
given it to you. It's a 4th level spell. 4th level is still in the common uncommon range. 6th level and above. If it was one of those spells,
So if you're saying I had true polymorphed into a T-Rex, it would have worked.
no. But I'm saying if it was something that would have a world-breaking spell that you would have used to try to collapse a building, I might have given it to you. But
Can we also remember that when after rescuing Darla, I gave her my pistol. I'm like, go, stay safe, and she I don't know if she rolled for this, but she runs off, and she was headshotting everyone on her way out of the building.
I did roll for that. You rolled a natural 20. It was crazy.
Y'all forget, their dad was in the Navy.
Yeah. No. I mean,
didn't know
Darla
that.
has
She
some
was
fighting
360
ability.
no
yeah.
scoping fools.
O'Neill, can I ask?
Yeah.
Did she give that gun back after the whole like?
I mean, you're letting her apparently live in your house, so
Yeah.
so
Okay,
she'll
that's
give it back
another
to
thing.
you at the end of
Can
that.
I canonically say that this is what's happened? I don't know about Wes; he's doing his own thing. But what's happening, right? Like when we ended the story,
Full House.
is Darla and her family are living in Julie's mother's house in the burbs.
Mm-hmm.
Julie's living in her apartment and has Nelson stuffed into the closet.
Okay.
That is canonically.
well,
that
we'll
is
have to-
canonically.
No, Nelson is in an Indiana Jones
We'll have
box.
to, you guys will have to
Man.
work
Top
your
man.
ear to try to figure out if you can find what happened to Nelson.
I think
If
I
you
even
can't
said
tell
that.
everybody, me and Olivia are one of our favorite movies.
Indiana
We talk about it all
Jones.
the time. We fucking love Indiana.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you guys have any questions for just the whole story? I know. That,
I have one that no one ever asks in these
Let me
types
see
of
if we
things
have
for
any
D&D
listener
podcasts.
questions.
Is people always ask like, when did we screw up? When was the time that we fell directly into what you expected? When did we fall? When did you hit us with? You were like, yep, and that's how they would react. Was there a moment for that for you?
It happens more frequently than not now. I would say early, like in the
well,
first.
not necessarily. I think at this point you know
Yeah.
our characters well
I
enough.
would say in the first few arcs it happened a lot less frequently, but I would say like in Botanist and Boston, the Arsenio death kind of played out how I imagined it would play out with Cash being like super like invested in like Arsenio's well-being and you two kind of being more lax. In Magic in the Midwest, I imagined kind of Julie's standoffishness at that point. I would kind of come to anticipate it. I would say that I'm trying to think what moment where you played like directly into my hands and I was like, oh, this is so tasty, but I can't think of anything specific. I would say parts of the finale definitely like lended itself to be more playing into my hand kind of deal. What was you? Let's go ahead and just like rattle off some of these more generic questions. What were you guys' favorite moment from this season? Just each for your character, for you, whatever.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I've already said mine before,
I
so.
really, again, same thing. I really loved the Cash Kumi sort of roleplay. That was really fun. T1NK, super fun to play. And then when Cash flipped off the council for West. on West.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. I definitely loved the final bit of Botanist in Boston.
Mm.
I remember at the time going back and just like syncing the footage myself the audio myself to re-listen to it, which I never do. We finished recording and I synced it and listened to it and I was like, oh shit, this is good. This was so much fun. And then I mentioned a couple of my favorite roleplay moments. Yeah. I think we've covered most of everything now. Is there anything
Real quick, I think because Olivia asked me this outside of recording, but I want to just hit on it real quick, where I got the inspiration for the 5 modes of persuasion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I based this entire arc of. Let me actually pull up in my notes the 5 modes of persuasion. So I have this right.
O'Neill, just a warning, you are still sharing your screen.
Oh,
and I just
yeah. Let me stop share.
Yeah.
Whew. So my 5 modes of persuasion were attention, need, satisfaction, visualization, and action. And those each lined up to like a canonical arc. Souls and Sales I didn't have like a mode of persuasion for, obviously. But each one kind of mirrored what the enchantment chair was doing behind the scenes, as well as like what I felt your characters were like building up towards, if that makes any sense. So like attention was like we're starting to like actually get into the characters with Botanist and Boston. Need is like what do each of your characters like need to grow. Satisfaction was like kind of like acting on those needs of growth. And then visualization was like, and this is where kind of Drinks and Dances maybe have diverted in the actual way we played it, but I had set it up so that like
Remember when we spent like 20 minutes so that Olivia could do a mini game?
Oh my god,
Remember-
yeah.
yeah.
During
we cut some stuff out during Drinks and
Oh,
Dances.
yes,
Olivia and
the
O'Neill
die
did
game.
play a card game for 20
I
minutes.
cut it down.
I think I was like playing Animal Crossing.
Two of you were like,
Jesse and I kept looking at each other like, is he gonna leave this in?
But visualization, I wanted you guys to
anyway.
like kind of come into your investigative, that kind of deal. And then action obviously was like the big
And we didn't.
finale.
Excellent. Nice.
But yeah. and they
Oh.
never talked about campaign 1 again.
No, when we were
Or season 1
when we
again,
were
I mean.
being promoted, don't you remember all of us were like, hold up,
What?
we've been the like junior team this whole time.
Yeah.
Literally every time the terrors come up, we're like, wait, who are they?
Yeah.
It happened like 3 or 4 times where we were just like, wait, what are those?
Which
What
is
are the
weird because you
terrors?
guys specifically asked me about like I texted in the group chat like wait until you meet SWATT and you're like what's SWATT and you guys were talking about it for so long and then as soon as I brought it up you guys were just like oh
Oh, okay. Yeah, we didn't know there were tears. So
I took a peek.
Because O'Neill didn't know
you were
there were
sending in the
tears
Boy Scouts to do
until
major
afterward.
I mean,
and
I
then
knew
in-game
by-
built
I
that
knew by
justification of us
Botanist
not knowing.
Um,
Hey, look, that's good. That's good. That's good DMing in my book.
yeah I give you guys
tying in your lack of world into our lack of knowledge. That's pretty solid. I'm into it.
I took a peek back
I
at
pulled
our
that shit.
group chat between the players.
Uh-huh.
One interesting thing is going into the hearing after the Souls and Sales. I was very conscious of the fact that we had to get our story straight.
mm-hmm.
Because Wes and Julie know about who the Reaper is. So it's kind of like how much do we... And we knew this one had to be public. So like we were like, crap, we need to skirt around the subject, you know? But we can't lie too much, otherwise they're gonna get all upset at us again.
Yeah, I mean the council R&Rs were the retellings were one for you guys to like refresh yourselves on the story, but two also so that you guys can. Kai back when we first early played at the end of each of our sessions, he would have us negotiate for experience, like how much did we do and how much did that. I took that system and just applied it to how much you were getting paid, essentially.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think that's it.
All right, cool.
Do we want to? Do we
Yeah,
want
give us a little sneak peek
to? Do we want to plug anything?
for season 2?
Sneak peek.
Any deets
Yeah,
you
Any
can
little,
say?
any little tasty nugs
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
audience?
First, let's plug. As you know, we have our Patreon,
Wait.
patreon.com.
I have a sneak peek. Can I say it?
Okay, wait, hold on. Let me do all the plugs first.
Let's do the
man.
plugs first.
If you like what we
Let's hit those
do,
plugs first.
you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at YMBW Podcast. That's YMBW a podcast. And you can tweet about the show using the hashtag YMBW. That's the hashtag symbol. Olivia?
Why?
Jesse?
Oh, okay. I realize what we're doing now. Why?
No, I'm not gonna do that.
Great. Love this improv energy we got going on here. YMBW. That's the hashtag symbol YMBW. Or you can rate us 5 stars on Instagram. Not Instagram. Fuck. On iTunes, Google Play, or wherever
I
you
guess
get
we
your
have an
podcasts.
Instagram now.
We do have an Instagram.
always
okay.
had
I'm not good at it,
my
but here
bad.
we are.
I don't have an Instagram actually.
You can rate us 5 stars on there, and we'll use your name in the show. Well, guess what? I'll be using plenty of names in the show because guess what? We've got a lot of characters in the new season.
New season.
But yes, we also have our Patreon,
Now-
patreon.com/YMBW podcast, where you can support us financially because every hour I don't have to spend working to get this podcast afloating and flying is an hour I can put more into getting these episodes out on time. Am I right?
Woo.
Unsure of what kind of bonus content we've released at the time of this.
Definitely
release,
Candle's out by now, so.
But we
Candle
definitely
out.
released Candle, a little hyperlane sci-fi action. Olivia did an amazing job with that. It was super fun to play. And above, obviously.
Another thing.
Anything else? Does anyone else have anything else to
share
plug?
with a friend. Word of mouth is a really good way of sharing our podcast. I personally have been telling more people than usual about our podcast just because we have launched our Patreon and all that sort of good stuff.
And tell them it's
And,
good. Because
we've gotten
Please give
Give
us
me
5
5.
stars.
Give me
Please
5.
give us 5 stars
that
on
helps
iTunes.
immensely because we are
Give me
trying to
a big
grow,
high five.
and part of that is our Patreon, part of that is social media engagement. So honestly, give me something to do. Tweet at us, tag us on Instagram.
Also,
anything like
you'd
that.
get the
Whatever.
satisfaction of knowing you've proved me wrong because I don't actually think anyone listens to this.
Wait, Jesse,
Ow.
stop.
If you actually listen,
yeah.
tweet at me. I don't use my
I
Twitter, but
have
do it.
gotten people Instagram. Well, I'll talk about. You know who you
we'll
are.
talk about this afterward. Well, this has been, you might be wondering, as we say at the end
You
of every
might be
podcast.
wondering.
How
Got
we got here.
That's it. That's how we
Okay,
end
bye,
every
guys.
episode.
Dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
4 figures trek through a desert at night. The lead figure stops, holding a hand up to signal the others. "This is the spot," she says. The massive figure standing behind her says in the same voice, "It's about time. I was starting to think Lawrence sent us on a wild goose chase." A third, same voice chimes in. "Well, I still don't see anything." The 4th figure with the same voice steps through the others, beckoning the others to step aside. "No, there's something here. I can feel it," she says. The 4th figure begins to chant in an incomprehensible language, drawing arcane symbols in the air. The sand begins to swirl around her as a massive cyclone of earth pours up and away from the dune they're standing on. A low rumble sounds out as the structure begins to rise from the sand. The 4 figures that are the same all step forward as the sandstorm comes to an end. A bright light illuminates them as a voice coming from the ancient building says, "Hello there. Could any of you provide me the year?"